Voices of the Goddess podcast, where we empower, inspire, and uplift women to be the goddesses they were meant to be. I am Julietta. I am a physical therapist known as the Magical PT, and I'm 53. I live in Fort Lauderdale, but I'm originally from Wisconsin. And it doesn't matter how long I live in Florida, I'm always from Wisconsin. That's where my people are. And Allison, as a fellow Midwesterner, can relate. People are just different there than what they are down here. And I'm divorced and have lived through a lot of things in life. And I'm also an artist. Like behind me on the wall, those are some of my own paintings that I've done. And I also work with crystals and make jewelry and other fun stuff. And Allison, my lovely co-host here.
Excuse me, what's your main job?
I said I'm a physical therapist.
Yeah,
or my main job, I'm a podcaster. You want me to say that?
Okay, so you're a podcaster. All right. My name is Allison Mancini. I am excited to be here today. And I am, as Julietta said, I'm originally a Midwesterner. I grew up in Michigan, so Michigan is still always home when people ask me, even though I've been in South Florida for almost 28 years. Holy cow. Married to my husband for 28 years and about 3 weeks. And I have 2 adult children, a 24-year-old and a 22-year-old, both whom do not live at home. And I am a holistic nutritionist, and my passion really is about helping women, especially busy moms, have the tools that they need to stay as healthy as they can, because we all know as moms, what we do with our health tends to pass on down to our children and into our families. So I feel like starting with mom and getting her straight on her nutrition and her health is the way to go. So that's my thing. That's what I do.
Awesome. So Allison knows, but last week I got my nails did. And
well, first of all, we got to preface this by saying, since I've known you in 6 years, I think I've seen you get your nails did one time.
One time, pretty much. Because, and my point of bringing this up is the stories that we make up. And so I've always been like, I love getting a pedicure, having gone through the pandemic, didn't get pedicures for a long time, but I went and got a pedicure. And this kind of started from, I had to get my branding photo shoots done for work and marketing. And they were going to take pictures of my hands. So make sure you get your nails done. And I'm like, I never get my nails done. And it's such a waste of time, a waste of money, because as a PT, I have to keep my nails short and I have to wash my hands a whole bunch of times every day. So like, a manicure will last like one day. And so like, and this is the story I kept telling myself. And last week I just had this realization, like, that's a stupid story I'm telling. Like, why not? So I went in last week to get a pedicure, and I'm like, and I'm going to get a manicure too. And I got the gel. So they're supposed, and they've lasted over a week now, which is completely amazing.
Told you they would.
Well, I told you I did the gel, like, I don't know, maybe like whenever they first came out. Mm-hmm. And even my gel manicure didn't last, but and someone told me it may have been a bad batch, or it may have been like the person who did put it on didn't do a good job. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, I still got my gels this week, and just like enjoying the change in the story. Like, I am a PT and I can get my fingers manicured. And, and it's like these hands do like this beautiful healing work all day, every day. Like, they deserve to be pampered and beautified as well. So, it's like, it's a simple, superficial story about getting my nails done, but it is like a super great example of like, what story? I've told that story for, 30 years. That's how long I've been a PT. So for 30 years, I can't I can't have my nails done because can't get a manicure because I'm a PT and I have to keep my nails short. And because I wash my hands every day a million times, like the manicure won't last. And like, who cares? even if the manicure doesn't last, it's still nice for me to go get my hands pampered because they work hard every day. They deserve it.
So, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up because I'm reading the book Get Rich, Lucky Bitch. And actually Angela, who is going to be our guest shortly, she knows the person who's running the book club that I'm reading it with, Tori. And what I find really interesting about that is I'm in the section of the book where it talks about how exactly the same thing. We tell ourselves these stories that we've probably learned from when we were little about how, in regards to like money, how things are, you can't afford that, you don't need it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I was reading it last night and I'm like, holy cow, I have spent the last 30 years of my life feeling guilty over getting a pedicure, going to get a massage, because I really didn't need it. But it's really interesting that listen, I work hard every day. That there shouldn't be a guilt to it. If that's what I want to go do because it makes me able to do my job better and feel good about what I'm doing, then I should be doing it. So I totally get it. I totally get what you're saying, because I've told myself those stories that I don't really need it for 30 years. And I've decided, you know what? Yes, I do need it.
Change the story. Change the story. Yes.
All right. So should we?
I invite our audience to like look at what stories they're telling themselves, and we'd love to hear about them too. Like, put them in the comments. What story are you telling yourself that you're going to change?
Yeah, and read that book. It's really good. It's really good. All right. So should we bring on our guest? She is
Let's
awesome.
bring on our guest.
I'm super excited to introduce her. So we are excited to have Angela Fallon joining us today. And I am just going to bring her on and let her introduce herself because I will not do it justice. So hello, it's nice to see you.
Hey, nice to see you both.
So tell us about Angela. Let's hear what you do and the amazing things that you're doing.
Sure. My name is Angela Fallon, like Allison said. I am a wife of a military veteran. We're retired Air Force here, and we have 3 boys. They are 8, 12, and 14 this Saturday. Yeah, we live in Texas. I'm actually born and raised in Texas. And I've actually spent the last 2 decades working in the defense industry. It's kind of interesting. Allison said, you got to tell people what you do. So it's kind of funny. I work directly with the U.S. government, but I've been working on fighter aircraft and in the last year, missiles. So I've been working with the U.S. government and all of our allies. Like I said, for the last 18 or so years, it was with fighter aircraft. So selling aircraft to the Japanese, the Italians, working with the Dutch, and then recently the Belgians. And then now I've just recently changed to a different business area where I work with a specific interceptor missile. So just think like defensive missile. So it sounds
like
extremely...
A serious badass, right?
Like, not what I was expecting at all.
It's funny because people think, oh my God, you work internationally with all these things. I'm like, yeah, it's not as glamorous as it sounds, but it's a cool job. It's a really cool job. Whenever people ask me what I do, when my kids have been really little and they've asked me, what does mommy do? I tell them I build freedom. It's the easiest way to explain it. I build freedom. The very first plane I worked on secures our air superiority, and it's a pretty amazing. I still get chill bumps talking about it. The F-22. So it's an exciting job. It is. It's still working with the U.S. government, which is slow and bureaucratic, but it's worth it. And if I probably was doing something else like building washing machines, I probably would have stayed at home with my kids instead of continuing to work in the last 20 years. I've also built 2 online businesses and recently built a coaching business. So I'm in the process of launching what's called Freedom Builders Elite. Imagine that. A coaching business. And I teach working parents how to master time freedom. Basically, how do you juggle being a present parent and, having a rewarding and purposeful career that also fulfills you, and do it without guilt. So that's what my coaching program is. That's my day job, and then what I do in my family life.
So she is definitely a master of time because she's got so much going on. I find it so incredible. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited to have you on this morning. And
Yeah,
we're going to jump in, and it's an hour earlier. So thank you, because I know you got up really early. So thank you. But let's go ahead and jump into our questions. So I know you saw the questions beforehand. So my first question to you is, what would you say is your superpower?
Something I've learned probably in the last 5 years or so is that I have the ability to look at people's potential within them. Most people have a hard time seeing the potential within themselves. The interesting thing is they absolutely have it in there. You probably heard lots of people, if you listen to other coaches or, inspirational leaders, they tell you, you have everything within you already. You just have to tap into it. And that's absolutely true. Usually when people come talk to me and they ask for mentoring, should I take this next role? Should I even apply for this role? Do you think I have the right skills for it? I tend to ask questions, but it's questions they already know the answer to. And towards the end of the conversation, I usually tell them, I think you already know the answer. Mm-hmm. You probably just had to get it validated. And most people are like that. It's kind of funny how things like that are very obvious to me, but not necessarily to them themselves until they talk it out. And they really just need someone to validate and affirm what they're thinking, and let go of the doubts. So I would say my superpower is seeing people's potential that they may not see in themselves.
That is a big superpower, because
it's exciting. It's really, so one of the things that really fills me up is seeing people succeed. I love it. I have 3 boys already, but I feel like I have hundreds of other children that I've mentored and coached. And I see even younger employees that I've hired into positions that other people probably wouldn't have, and push them and load them up and see how they do. And almost every time they rise to the occasion, and it's exciting and I'm very proud to see.
That's awesome.
Well, we live in such a world that, everybody's so quick to criticize and point out people's faults. And think about what a different world it would be if, instead we'd just all day, pointed out people's strengths and their positive attributes. And because they're inside everybody, we're all the same. It's just what our life experiences have pulled out of us. And, if you have someone just constantly pointing out your positive, that's what's going to grow. Where your attention goes, energy flows. So, thank you for creating positivity in this world, Angela.
Right, for sure. All right. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite book or a book that has greatly inspired? And I know this is hard. If there's more than one, that's okay, but try to do one.
The book I find myself talking the most about and recommending to people is Atomic Habits. It's a book that was recommended to me about 3 years ago, and I've probably read it 5 or 6 times. I listen to a lot of books on Audible, and I can re-listen to Atomic Habits in a weekend. There's plenty of laundry to go around, and between the changing over, the washer and the dryer, I can listen to a 5 or 6 hour book within a weekend. Atomic Habits talks about how even just small incremental changes can compound into something remarkable. And the author, James Clear, talks regularly about some of the basketball teams or the UK biking Olympic team, how they've made very small incremental changes that have compounded into making something remarkable, whether it was the 1992 Lakers or the, like I said, the British cycling team. It's interesting to me how, with some of us that work in leadership or coaching, you find that it's not the big things that people don't know. It really is the little things that make the difference. And those small little tweaks along the way can really help somebody level up to the next level or even multiple levels. The other thing that I really like about Atomic Habits is it talks on how to create a new habit and how to discourage bad habits and lose them. And for someone who might be trying to quit smoking or get up earlier to accomplish a new goal, it's an excellent book for all of those things.
Yeah, I just finished reading that. That was the book club we did in the mastermind this last month, and it was so good. And what I found, I mean, I've heard that before. Like if you've ever read The Compound Effect or, some of those other books that are out there, it's those little things you do every day that a year from now make the difference, right? But sometimes it's hard to see that. So that Atomic Habits book is a great book. And I also love how he talks about how to break bad habits and how to, like you said, like getting up early. He actually like gives away like ideas of how you can do it to increase the success of you getting up early every day and making that a habit. Yeah, I thought it was a great book, or really great if you want to change, especially for people that aren't good at time blocking. That's a great book for that too, right? So it's really good. Yeah.
It's so funny. I was looking for a different book on my bookshelf this weekend, and I saw I have Atomic Habits on my bookshelf, and I haven't read it yet. So I guess this is the sign I'm supposed to pull it out and read it.
Yeah, it's a good book, definitely. All right. So number 3, Angela, is because we find so often with the women that we talk with and that we know in our lives that, we are always taking care of everybody else. We're always nurturing everyone, making sure everyone gets, like you've got 3 kids and your job and your company and you're all over the place. So how do you make time for yourself? What is your favorite form of self-care practice?
So self-care for me, it's kind of funny. People think, from self-care is I'm going to take a nap, I'm going to get a manicure, I'm going to get a massage. I have struggled, just like you all were talking at the beginning about, fitting things in. When do I exercise? It's felt selfish to me in the past of spending time exercising because I should be doing something for my kids or helping my husband with something or whatever. But exercise is something that I absolutely prioritize now. And in the last, 4 or 5 months, I've picked up Pilates. There's a new Pilates studio only about 3 miles from my house. And it's a different kind of exercise now that I'm in my early 40s. Running doesn't feel as good as it used to. I have arthritis in my lower back from carrying 3 8+ pound babies. Yeah. And it's just not as easy as it used to be. And I even have a Peloton that I've had for a little over a year now that I still like it. But I actually not quite injured, but I hurt my back for a few days. One time when I overdid it on the Peloton. I really like the stretching and the challenge you can get from using like a Pilates reformer. And so I go probably at least 4 days a week. Sometimes I try to get in 5, but I get up before everybody else. If you've ever read the book 5 a.m. Club or Miracle Morning,
yes,
as well about getting up about an hour before everybody else and having me time. I've learned, even though I've thought for over 4 decades that I'm not a morning person, I like the quiet time in the morning. On Saturdays, I still get up early, and the first thing I do is go to Pilates class, and then I just get it in. I get it in, and I feel better. I sleep better whenever I exercise, even something like a challenging stretch, like some of the easier Pilates classes can be. But it's funny because my exercise is my me time, and it's my self-care. Yeah. But like I said, if it encourages rest, like rest is something I crave.
So I was listening to a podcast yesterday on Brene Brown. I sent it to Julietta, and she interviewed Tim Ferriss and Dax Shepard. If you know who either one of them are, Tim Ferriss is incredible and Dax Shepard is hysterical. And they both have their own podcasts. So she was interviewing them about podcasting and then just going into like life in general. And one of the things she asked them, one of the question was, what is one, if you had to give up everything else but one habit, what would it be that you would keep? Do you know that both of them answered exercise? Because even the mental side of the exercise and the fact of the hormones that it creates. And it's just like you just said. So I just turned 50 in January, and I used to run also, but I had to stop because my knees and my back, I couldn't do it anymore. I love yoga now because to me it's challenging enough, but it's not so high impact. And that's what these guys were like talking about. Like, however that form of exercise is for you, it's just so good for you. So I agree. I think exercise is an excellent form of self-care, and I do it every day, whether it's walking the dog or yoga. I mean, I don't do anything crazy. It's not like I'm going to the gym and lifting weights and getting all buff, you know what I mean? But I want it for the movement of it because I know it's good for not only my body, but my brain. So yeah, I think that's awesome.
I've been fighting anxiety for a long time too. I think I've had anxiety since I was probably a teenager. I don't think I realized what it was until probably my second or third son. And I had postpartum with every one of them, but I didn't know that that's what it was until I finally went to the doctor. And, the doctor's like, your postpartum is off the chart. And I'm like, what's postpartum? To say call it something, right? It was figuring out that I have anxiety. That's the other thing that I tell people, I have to get exercise in. It's like you said, mentally I need it. It's my Xanax.
So wait, let me get this straight. You had postpartum after like your second or third son, plus you were working, right? This whole time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot. So yeah, exercise is definitely good for the anxiety and all that stuff. The mental side it's really good for. Yeah. And I think so many people don't realize that they look at exercise like I'm just doing it to lose weight or to stay in shape or however, but it's really so good for your brain. That's to me, now that I'm 50, that's more the benefit that I look for than anything else. It's kind of, it increases all that serotonin, it does all those great things with all those hormones. And that's kind of what I get out of it. And days that I don't get it in because I'm busy or I have a lot going on, I definitely can tell. And like I said, I don't do anything crazy. I walk the dog a few miles and then I try to do yoga. So it's nothing crazy, but it's just getting out and getting the movement in. I think that's awesome. Okay. Our last, right? Exactly. Our last question is, and this is one that we actually ask because when Juliet and I sat down and said, we want to do a podcast because we want to support the women that we know, we were recommended to do a little bit of research, which we did. And we found out that one of the things that a lot of women struggle with is accountability. And so one of the questions that we ask all of our guests is, how do you find accountability or how do you hold yourself accountable to get done what you need to get done?
So preparing for this question, I wrote down two things. I'll go through them kind of quickly since I see what time we're going. The first one is, I run a tight schedule. You can't have 50,000 plates going and not drop 4 or 5 of them without being organized. So we talked earlier about time blocking. I use a time management skill called time blocking where I basically schedule everything on a calendar. I started with 2 calendars, having a personal calendar and a work calendar. I've gone to, in the last year or so, to only having a single calendar, and it's my work calendar, and I put my personal stuff on it too. But I schedule things from the time I get up to having my own miracle morning. When I drop my son off at 6:30 football practice, even whenever I'm hosting or co-hosting a podcast, whatever, I put all of those things on there all the way down to whenever I shut down and go to bed at night. So time blocking, I'm constantly looking at my schedule. Some people think that sounds like, oh, you're a slave to your schedule. It keeps me very organized. And whenever I miss something, it's easy for me to drag it and put it on another day. So time blocking is the first way I keep myself accountable. It's also how I keep 5 people's crap in one place. So my husband's like, when's the next football game? When are we having such and such birthday party? What are we doing for Thanksgiving? Mm-hmm. It's all on my calendar. And a lot of times I send him meeting notices to his calendar so he knows. Like I said, I travel for work too. I'll be out of town next week in the last week of this month. And I send everything to his calendar too. So whenever I'm gone, he'll see, okay, William's got a football game at 5 p.m. on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. So time blocking is the first thing. Another thing that I learned from Atomic Habits is whenever you want to encourage a habit, you reward something. And one of the things that he explains is, if you want to get your exercise in and make it a continuous thing and something encouraging to you to do, you can do something like, every time you go exercise, you put some money into your savings account or something like that. One of the things that I do is that whenever I go grocery shopping, instead of going out to eat, because it's very easy for a family of 5 to just avoid cooking and go out to eat a lot, even though it's very expensive. Mm-hmm. When I go grocery shopping, whatever grocery store I'm at, and I only frequent a couple, I always get the maximum amount of cash back. I know that sounds really weird, but it's putting money in my wallet instead of spending it at a restaurant. Because for 5 of us to go out to eat averages about $100, maybe $120. My grocery bill, we didn't for at least 4 nights of dinner and lunch and some breakfast, not obviously breakfast, is somewhere around 260. So 2 meals could eat up my entire grocery bill, or we can have food for 4 days, 4 full days, not just 2 meals. So I get the maximum amount of cash back, and it may be $60, but it's a reward in my wallet. And if the kids say, hey, do you want to go out for ice cream, or hey, can we grab a coffee while we're out, or something like that, I have cash in my wallet. And so it's a reward for not eating unhealthy, not spending more money than we should. It's a way for me to help budget too.
I love that idea. Where were you when my kids were little, Angela? Darn it. Okay, so I have to ask you before we go to our takeaways really quickly, because you have a challenge coming up, right? And it's a free challenge. And what's it about?
So, a lot of people are going back to school right now with the kids, or some people are just trying to get back in the groove with fall coming up. And I think people are really struggling with getting back into a routine. So the challenge is actually called Get Your Itch Together. It's about a 5-day challenge, and it's really for people to get back on track. We're going to talk about, how do you accept where you are, and then how do you make changes. And actually the second day, we're really going to talk about making some very quick, immediate changes. A lot of people in the summer, you go back to maybe some bad eating habits, maybe not drinking enough water like you should, and your body probably feels bad. So we're going to want some very quick things that you can do immediately to feel better within a couple of days. And then just get your crap together from a scheduled routine and whatnot perspective.
Awesome. I love that. I think I might need to do your challenge. And I don't have kids at home anymore, but I still need to get my itch together. So,
Yeah.
All right. Julietta, what's your takeaway, my friend?
Mine is really simple. I'm pulling Atomic Habits off the bookshelf and putting it in front of me so that I read it, because I definitely need to create some habits that are going to help me. Where you were talking about scheduling everything, and I just got this planner and I got all excited about getting there. Like, I've put stuff in my planner, I don't know, maybe I'm being generous to say I've done it 50% of the time. And I definitely need to become a scheduler. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but I'm going to make it happen.
Hey, stop putting that out there. You got to put out, I'm using a schedule. So that's funny that you brought that up, because I, as you well know, Julietta, I do use a planner, but I'm not always good about actually following. Like, I sit down every Sunday evening and I use a Google Calendar, and then I have paper too, because I'm a paper girl. So I like that. But I have my Google Calendar, so I can kind of move things around easily. And I always look at it on Sunday, look at my week, and really try to be realistic about it and move things as needed, so that I'm allotting enough time for everything. But Monday, I always do great. Like last Monday, Julietta's like, girl, you're killing it. Because I was like doing all this stuff for our podcast. And I'm like, yeah, well, it's only Monday, because by tomorrow it's not going to be happening. So I need to get better at staying consistent, because I know, like you said, with Atomic Habits, if I do the little things and stick with my time blocking, compounding going forward, I know that it will make a difference. So I just have to be disciplined. So that's my takeaway. I'm not really sure how to get disciplined, but I need to do it. So I think I need to do your challenge, I think, is what I need to do. All right. Angela, what's your takeaway?
Honestly, it was kind of nice to hear you guys talk back and forth at the beginning about not feeling guilty for doing things for yourself. It's something I have to constantly remind myself. And it's kind of nice to hear, even though I know I'm not the only one in this boat, it's nice to hear that other people sometimes struggle with it as well. So, and then I'll encourage you both to start doing your scheduling, doing your time blocking, and don't judge yourself. That's where I think a lot of people, I don't know why everyone desires perfection. I guess it's just human nature. It's not perfect. My schedules are never perfect. I don't always meet them 100%, but that's why it's movable. It's flexible. I too, Allison, sit down every Sunday and look at my schedule for the week and decide what needs to move around. And that's when I may move an exercise class or add one or delete one based on what else I've got going on. I still have a realistic view of how my week may go. And then things happen, right? And you can't. Don't beat yourself over it. Give yourself a little grace. Just start.
Yeah, I agree. I need to schedule in time blocking for my course is what I need to do.
There you go.
All right. Well, this has been awesome. Angela, thank you so much for joining us. Julietta,
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Do you want to wrap us up and close us out?
I can do that. So
Awesome.
again, thank you, Angela, for joining us. This was a great conversation. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in. And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And the stuff that we talked about today in the show, if you need to get in touch with Angela or Allison and myself, all that information is in the show notes. Check us all out. And I want to wish you all a magical day.
Thanks, Angela.